Hello everyone online. First of all, I would like to thank the grace of heaven, the virtuous teachings of our Master, the boundless blessings of the wondrous ultimate great Emperor, the compassion of our Patriarch, and the devoted guidance of all our teachers, for giving me this opportunity to share with you all. Life is too short. Don't start learning Buddhism too late. The topic we are going to talk about today is related to the wisdom of life and learning Buddhism. Some people might feel that it sounds a bit heavy, but the phrase "life is too short, don't start learning Buddhism too late" already points out the key: life is limited. Since life is finite, we should live it with more meaning and value. Life is like a play. The stage mirrors life is the saying we hear most often. Everyone switches between different roles. When you were a child, you had your parents' love and care, and you were like the protagonist, the center of attention. But when you become a parent yourself, you may switch to a supporting role. Everyone has different backgrounds, experiences, and goals. No matter how our stage changes, the curtain will eventually fall, and only then will we truly see our own true face. In our lifetime, every stage has different standards, and every age group has its own unique measure. These standards help us grow, and they also remind us that time flies. When we are in our teens, what we compete on is how smart and quick-witted we are, that is, our learning ability. In our 20s, academic qualifications become society's first standard for us. At this time, we may still be searching for our own position, or still striving for our dreams. When we reach our 30s, the outside world starts paying attention to our abilities, our job performance, and professional qualities become the main basis for others to evaluate us. When we reach our 40s, we begin to see the experiences we have accumulated along the way. At this point, our experiences and wisdom become the most valuable wealth. At 50, financial resources start to become an important indicator. At 60, physical strength becomes our focus, and we begin to pay attention to our health. At 70, illness and pain become a topic we can no longer avoid. At 80, we may start looking back, start reflecting on our life, searching for the ultimate meaning and solace. Dear online friends and family, no matter which stage of life we are in, we must remember one thing: the value of life does not lie in comparing ourselves with others, but in walking our own life path well. Let me share a story with everyone here. One day, a father and his son were watching ducks swimming by the river. The father asked the child, "What did you observe?" The child answered, "The little ducks swim slower, and the big ducks swim faster." The father very kindly said, "That's great. Did you also notice that the little ducks swim out a small path, while the big ducks swim out a big path? Some ducks are swimming in front, some ducks are behind, but in the end, every single duck reaches the other side of the river." This story makes us reflect. Actually, there is no need for us people to compare with each other. As long as we strive to walk our own path, that's enough. Let me ask all of our friends and family online once again, may I ask, can our life be rehearsed? Can we have a practice run before it begins? Of course not. Life is a live broadcast. This sentence makes a lot of sense, because no matter how old we are, each day never comes back again. We only live once. Have you ever thought about how you wanted to spend this lifetime? Do you want to struggle with great passion, or drift through life in confusion and waste? Some people say life is a chase, but what exactly are we chasing? Here, I want to share a story with everyone. There was an American businessman sitting on a pier in a small fishing village by the Mexican seaside. He saw a fisherman rowing a small boat ashore, and there were many large yellowfin tuna in the boat. The businessman saw that the fisherman had caught such high-quality fish, so he praised him and asked, "How long did it take you to catch these?" The Mexican fisherman said, "It only took a short while." The American asked again, "Then why don't you stay out longer so you can catch more fish?" The fisherman replied with satisfaction, "These fish are already enough to meet the needs of my family." The American asked again, "Then what do you do with the rest of your time each day?" The fisherman explained, "I sleep until I naturally wake up, go out to sea to catch a few fish, then when I come back I play with my children, then take a nap with my wife. When evening comes, I go to the village to have a little drink, play some guitar with my buddies. My days are full and busy." This American was a Harvard MBA. After hearing what the fisherman said, he was not impressed and wanted to give him some advice, so he told him, "Well, I can actually help you. You should spend more time catching fish every day. Then you'll have enough money to buy a bigger boat. Naturally, you'll be able to catch more fish. Then you can buy more boats and eventually own an entire fleet. At that point, you won't need to sell your fish to middlemen, you can sell directly to processors. Then, you can open your own cannery. That way, you can control the entire process of production, processing, handling, and marketing. After that, you can leave this small village and move to Mexico City, then to Los Angeles, and finally to New York, where you can run your expanding enterprise." The Mexican fisherman asked, "And how long will that take?" The American answered, 15 to 20 years. "And then?" The American laughed, "Then you can sit at home like a king. And when the time is right, you can announce an IPO and sell your company's stock to the public. Then you'll be rich, making millions and millions." The fisherman asked again, "And then?" The American said, "Then you can retire. You can move to a fishing village by the sea, sleep until you naturally wake up, go out to sea and catch a few fish, play with your children, take a nap with your wife, and in the evening go to the village to have a little drink and play guitar with your buddies." The fisherman looked confused and said, "But isn't that exactly what I'm doing now?" So everyone, we should not blindly pursue something for half our lives, only to realize that what we've been chasing all along was right where we started. So let us ask ourselves, what exactly am I pursuing in this life? The answer might be wealth, fame, or status. But in the end, can these really give us peace of mind? In fact, our greatest worries come from desires that cannot be satisfied. The more we want, the more anxious we become. And as a result, we live every day in worry, forgetting the most important thing, how we should live this life well. Former U.S. President Lincoln once said, "Life is like a piece of writing. What matters is the content, not the length." Everyone has 24 hours a day. One day has 3 blocks of 8 hours. 8 hours of sleep, 8 hours of work, and what about the remaining 8 hours? What do we use them for? A person's life is 1/3 growing, 1/3 working, and the remaining 1/3? How do we plan that? Taking away the confused days of youth, the weakened years of old age, plus time spent eating and sleeping, how much time is really left? Some people use it to strive for success, some get addicted to their phones, some complain about life, and some choose to learn and practice, enriching their inner world. So everyone, we must wisely choose and think about where we should invest our time. In the Buddhist scriptures it says, "Human life is hard to obtain, and now it is obtained. The Dharma is hard to hear, and now it is heard." This means that being born as a human is already extremely rare. How rare? The next story explains the difficulty of obtaining human life. This story is an analogy used by the Buddha, the blind turtle and the floating plank, describing the impermanence and difficulty of life. In this story, a turtle in the vast ocean surfaces only once every 100 years, while a piece of floating wood drifts randomly with the waves. The Buddha asked Ananda, "Can this blind turtle pass its head through the round hole in the floating plank?" Ananda thought and said, "This is almost impossible, because both the turtle and the plank are drifting in the sea. The chance of them meeting is extremely slim." The Buddha then told Ananda, even though the turtle and the plank drift without direction, they still have a slight chance of meeting. But ordinary beings drifting in the sea of the 5 realms have even less chance of obtaining a human life than that blind turtle passing through the hole in the plank. Ananda asked the Buddha, "Why is that?" The Buddha said, "Because sentient beings do not practice goodness or truth. They harm each other through endless cycles, the strong bullying the weak, creating countless negative causes. Therefore, monks must awaken to the truths of suffering and the path to its cessation. Our lives are filled with many kinds of suffering: birth, aging, sickness, death, separation from loved ones, being with those we dislike, and desires that cannot be fulfilled. The root of these sufferings comes from greed, anger, and ignorance, because we cling to desires and attachments. If we can remove these afflictions, we can extinguish suffering and no longer be bound by the cycle of rebirth, gaining true liberation and peace. Those who have not yet understood these truths should strive diligently in their practice. The monks, upon hearing the Buddha's teaching, each realized the rarity of human life and understood that they must cherish it and cultivate diligently. The Buddha said that obtaining this human body is like the tiny bit of dirt stuck under a fingernail, while losing a human body is like the vast dust of the earth. Since we have gained this human life, we must make good use of it, correct our speech and behavior, rediscover our original goodness, and move toward the completeness of life. friends and family online, let us think again. If you were a shrewd businessperson holding a sum of money, how would you invest it? Of course, you would invest in the place with the highest return. Then what about our life? Where do you think we should invest it to gain the most lasting benefit? Next, we need to clarify our own values and motivations in life. When facing confusion, the most important thing is to honestly reflect on our own values and motivations. It's a bit like the concept of beginning with the end in mind. What kind of person do you want to become? What kind of life do you want to live? Or, what is the most important thing in your entire life? Otherwise, every day is just rice, oil, salt, sauce, vinegar, and tea. And aren't we busy, confused, and blind? Busy as in being occupied, confused as in not knowing, and blind as in rushing forward without knowing our goal. If we don't know where our destination is and we keep running forward, can we really reach the right ending? These are all things worth stopping to think about. Of course, if you can find your life's value and purpose, your whole life is worthwhile. And the definition of a person's values is: when we one day leave this world, others can make a final judgment, and we ourselves can look back with a clear conscience. Simply put, our values are the belief and practice of what is worth it. They influence our choices, actions, and how we treat others, and they already determine the impact and value we leave in this world. This also reminds us that every day we live is accumulating content for our final evaluation. When we look back at our life, can we be at peace? Did we live out our own values? This is what we should truly reflect on. In fact, life is very short, and no one can control the next second. Next, I want to share a wise piece of writing, from a verse by our late Venerable Master. In the temple, this poem carries deep philosophy between each line. The content is: in spring, newly cut willows turn green, in autumn winds, chrysanthemums turn yellow. Prosperity is always like a midnight dream, wealth and honor are like the frost of September. This is the most sincere depiction of the impermanence of life. The newly sprouting green willows of spring symbolize hope and vitality. But when the autumn wind blows, chrysanthemums bloom quietly again, symbolizing maturity and decline. Glory and wealth are like dreams in the middle of the night, which eventually fade with the passing of time, just like autumn frost, disappearing in an instant. No matter how much we desire wealth and status, we cannot escape the changes of impermanence. Then the poem continues. Who can replace us in birth, aging, sickness, and death? The sour, sweet, bitter, and spicy, each must be tasted by ourselves. Every stage of life must be experienced personally. From birth to aging, from health to illness, from happiness to hardship. These changes cannot be experienced on our behalf by anyone else. Let me share something I personally experienced recently. My daughter was involved in a very serious car accident in mid-February this year. I remember that night, close to midnight, I had just gone to bed. My phone rang, an unfamiliar number. At the moment I didn't think much of it, assuming it was a wrong call. Then the second call came, and then the third one. Only then did I pick it up. On the other end was a police officer. He said, "Are you the mother of Miss Chiu? She was in a car accident tonight and is currently in the emergency room at Shuangho Hospital." When I heard that, I panicked. I was shocked. My body was trembling, and I couldn't calm down. I immediately went to wake my younger daughter, and we called a taxi to rush from Taoyuan to Shuangho Hospital in Zhanghe, New Taipei. When we reached the ER, I saw my older daughter lying on the bed with her face covered in injuries. She had gauze in her mouth, and her knee had a severe laceration that required more than 20 stitches. At that moment, my heart felt like it was being cut by a knife. Other than comforting her, I couldn't help her take on any of her physical pain. Because of this incident, I deeply felt the truth of impermanence and the need to cherish life. There is a saying, "If the king of hell has decided you will die at midnight, he will not keep you until dawn." It may sound serious, but it is indeed true. Many people think they still have plenty of time, but accidents often happen unexpectedly. You all may have heard of or know the Taiwanese entrepreneur Yan Kai-tai, the former chairman of the Yulon Group. His businesses included Yulon Motor, China Motor Corporation, Luxgen Motor, Gamma Suit, the Yulon Dinos basketball team, the Taiyuan women's basketball team, and so on. He once said, "No one knows how long you can live. When you are alive, I hope you live wonderfully." And Steve Jobs, the founder of Apple, he passed away at 56. In 1976, he and his friend, electronics engineer Steve Wozniak, founded Apple Computer. Jobs was famous for being clean-cut and charismatic. He developed Apple into one of the world's leading technology and consumer electronics brands. In 2003, he was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. When Jobs was 17, he read a quote, "If you live each day as if it were your last, someday you will most certainly be right." From then on, for the next 33 years, he asked himself every morning in the mirror, "If today were the last day of my life, what would I want to do?" If his answer was nothing, and this continued for several days, he knew he needed to make a change. These two people were extremely wealthy and influential. Though they could not control the length of their lives, they made their lives meaningful. So, if it is a blessing, it is not a disaster. If it is a disaster, you cannot avoid it. In the Ekaterika Agama Sutra, it says, "Safety and danger interchange, fortune and misfortune give rise to one another." This means that ease and danger, blessings and calamities, often alternate and generate each other. There is no absolute good luck or bad luck in this world. It depends on how we respond to the changes of life. Buddhism also says, "The greatest evils are the three poisons: greed, anger, and ignorance." Greed causes people to lose direction, anger causes people to lose reason, and ignorance traps people in delusion. If these three poisons are not removed, our lives will inevitably be filled with disasters and suffering. Greed is the difference between wants and needs. Needs come from our body, wants come from desire. When you are hungry, you need food. When you are full, but still want dessert or snacks, that want is desire. Your body has enough, but your mouth still feels it's not enough. You end up consuming things you don't need. Need comes from ourselves, but want often comes from others. When we keep chasing things we don't need, we end up in pain. And anger is resentment. Don't punish yourself with someone else's mistakes. We all know that nowadays people cannot live without smartphones. Here's an example. Are you more nervous if you forget your house keys, or more nervous if you forget your phone? Most people would say the latter. Because you need line at work, and if you need a locksmith, you also need Google. There's another modern phrase, technology coldness. When I eat with my children, the first thing they do when the food arrives is take photos, then check in online, and only then can they start eating. During meals, everyone just keeps their heads down scrolling on their phones, not speaking at all. This is technology coldness. It shows that smartphones are a modern addiction, and this is also a form of anger. Therefore, if people want to avoid misfortune and seek blessings, they should cultivate themselves with virtue. We can practice this through the following points. First, close the door and reflect on your faults. When facing difficulties, we should reflect on our own mistakes instead of blindly blaming others. Second, build good relationships and reduce greed. Fate between people must be cherished. Excessive desire only leads to deep suffering. Third, increase compassion and remove anger. Have kindness in your heart, treat people well, dissolve resentment, and gain true happiness. Lastly, seize the moment and leave no regrets. When opportunities come, we must bravely grasp them, so our life won't be full of regret. There are 4 things in the world that can never be taken back. Words that have been spoken, an arrow that has been shot, time that has passed, and a missed opportunity. These 4 things remind me of a poem. Last night the west wind withered the green trees. I climbed the tall tower alone and gazed toward the ends of the world. The world is ever changing, and time will not flow backward because of our regrets. Therefore, we should live in the moment, be practical, and never miss a good opportunity. So we should grasp the present moment and find the true value of our life. So how should we make our lives more valuable and make our life more meaningful? There are 3 key points. First, when learning Buddhism, don't lose at the word waiting. Many people always think they still have time, but what they end up waiting for is endless regret. In fact, learning Buddhism is not about becoming a monk, nor about giving up worldly life, but about learning a kind of wisdom that allows us to live more complete and more at ease within our limited lifetime. Second, cleanse the body and mind, and use the illusion to cultivate the truth. Our body is like a tool that helps us cultivate in this world, but if we only focus on satisfying the body's needs while forgetting the elevation of the mind, then we waste this opportunity of being human. Some people live to 100 but have never truly lived. Some only live to 30, yet live brilliantly and completely. So which kind of life do you want? Third, purify the mind. When the human mind is confused, the only way is to elevate the mind's immune system through practice. It cannot guarantee that you will not encounter unpleasant things in life, but elevating the mind generates positive energy, which can give you the courage to solve problems when you face them. Everyone is an unemployed person. Without elevating the mind, having no merit and no virtue, it is impossible to free oneself from the cycle of birth and death. Next, the fourth point is cultivating the body and nurturing the nature. As human beings, we must learn to cultivate our body and nurture our nature, and the best way to do that is to calm the mind and cultivate the heart. There is a saying, an illness makes one understand the importance of health, a rain makes one know the preciousness of an umbrella. The most important thing in life is not how much we possess, but how we face challenges. Cultivating the mind is elevating the energy within us, giving us wisdom to face the storms of life. This cultivation is continuous self-training, self-improvement, sublimation, increasing positive energy, and elevating our immunity. In the Great Learning, it is said, cultivating the body lies in rectifying the mind. When the mind has anger, it cannot be upright. When the mind has fear, it cannot be upright. When the mind has excessive pleasure, it cannot be upright. When the mind has worry, it cannot be upright. When the mind is not present, one looks but does not see, listens but does not hear, eats but does not know the taste. The foundation of cultivating the body and mind lies in our upright mind, keeping the mind peaceful and upright. If our heart is full of anger, fear, greed, or depression, then the mind cannot stay upright. Furthermore, if the mind is not in the present moment, then we lose focus when doing things and cannot truly perceive or understand everything around us. For example, our eyes may see, but we do not really see. Our ears hear, but we do not truly understand. When eating, we cannot savor the true taste of food. These are all signs of a distracted mind that cannot concentrate. The second point is calming the mind, which is the deepest form of communication between ourselves and our own heart. Don't indulge in yourself, we must learn to choose and let go. Only when we see through things can we put them down. Desire is the source of sin. When there is greed, there will be delusion. As practitioners, we must constantly reflect on ourselves, investigate things, understand principles, know contentment and find joy, remove falsehood and give rise to truth, and eliminate distracting thoughts in the heart to achieve true purity. Finally, seize the present moment and let life be without regret. This day has passed, and so too has life decreased. Every day that goes by is a part of our life disappearing. This reminds us to cherish the present moment and not waste our limited time on meaningless things. Learning Buddhism is not to make ourselves different from others, but to help us live more clearly and more freely. So I hope everyone can think about one question. If today were the last day of our life, what would you regret not doing? While we still have the chance, let us make this life more meaningful together. Today, I'll share with all our online friends and family up to here. If there is anything insufficient in what I said, may the saints and Buddhas show compassion and forgive, and I ask everyone for your understanding. Lastly, I wish all online family members peace and a happy, harmonious life. Thank you, everyone.